about the introduction to Figma. So this is basically for the newbies out there that are thinking of going into design but don't really know how to start or don't know how to walk their way around this Figma platform. This is a video for you. And also don't forget to subscribe, like, and also share to your other friends that are probably looking at going into Figma, looking at going into design rather. And yeah, let's jump into it. So first things first, you want to open a Figma account. So you want to go to figma.com, and then you can choose to either so let's say this is a new account, so you want to sign up. So you can choose to sign up with Google, and once you do that, you'll be asked to put in your password, and then just follow the prompt. And once you do all that, you are good to go. And then once you've opened up your Figma, you'll be shown this page right here. So this is the home page of your Figma, because this is an existing account, so already have some designs here, so it's not empty. But what you get to see are things like, you get to see this Figma basics. You can open it and just go through it. You get to see this, you get to see that, and this is what's going to be on your canvas. So now straight into design. So you want to start up your designs. The first thing you want to do is you want to look at the top right hand here where you see this design file and has this plus sign. You want to click on it, and once you click on it, now this is your Figma canvas. Now you can start designing. First things first, let's talk about how you save your Figma file. So you can see at the top where you have untitled. So this is the name you're going to save your file as. So let's save it as let's say first design first design class. Once you type that, you press enter, and now watch what happens when I go back to my Figma, right? So I click on this and I go back to files. Now you can see it here. So for every design I've done in that file, it's automatically saved there, and anytime I need to go back to it, all I have to do is to log into my Figma, and you can see the title here, first design class, and then I just open it and I can continue designing basically. So now let us kick off. So let's talk about the things we can see on the screen. So I'm going to take it one by one. So at the left side here, there you have what is called the layers panel. So in this layer panel, you get to see basically anything you design, anything you have on this canvas. So this is called the Figma canvas, right? So anything you have here, you get to see it on here. So if you have like a rectangle here, you get to see saved here, and you can also change the name. This is where you can also rename your elements, be it text, be it shapes, be it frames, whatever, you get to rename them. That's the layers panel. Over here, you can see something called assets. So under assets, you can have your components, right? We're going to go into components and how components work. And also over here, you can have different pages. So you can have, this is page 1. You can choose to design on this page. You can choose to add another page and design on it. So basically, it's all your choice, right? So let's just stick on page 1. So that is the layers panel. Next is the toolbar section, which is the top here. So this is called the toolbar section. Here you have your different tools. You have this name which I just broke down to you, and then you have this over here. And then by the right side here, you have something called the properties panel. So don't forget, layers panel, toolbar section, properties panel. Right, now that we've gotten that out of the way, now let's talk about some of the things you can see on this Figma file. So over here, you have the move tool, right? So with this move tool here, basically move tool is used to move anything on the Figma canvas, be it text, shapes, frames, whatever, anything on this canvas here, you can use the move tool to move it around, right? So let's talk about the next one, which is the region tools. Over here, you can get frames. So when you click on frames, all you have to do is to click this little drop down arrow, and you get to see these sections. They won't talk about section, won't talk about slides. We're just going to stick to frames. So when you select this frame, now watch what happens on the properties on properties panel. You can see you have different frames. So you have phone, tablet, desktop, presentation, even watch, paper, social media, community, archive. So this frame is just basically what you want to design on, right? So let's say you want to design on a phone frame. All you have to do is, once you've selected the frame right here, you have this comes up on the property panel. You select this drop down, then you have different kinds of phone. You have the iPhone 14, iPhone 14 Pro, even Android large, Android small, iPhone 8. So whatever phone frame you want to design on, all you have to do is just to select it. Just click on it, and you can see it is now on your Figma Canva. So let me go back to the move to now. So with this move to now, I can get to move this round this Figma. I can move it anywhere I want to, right? So that's why I said you can use the move to move anything, be it text, shapes, frames, anything. You can use it to move anything on this Figma Canva. That's what the move tool is used for. So now we've looked at frames now, and also don't forget, you can, aside phone, you can also choose to, maybe you want to design on a desktop. You have different kind of desktop. You have the MacBook Air, MacBook Pro 14, you have the normal desktop, you have wireframe, you even have TV, because we know how we have smart TVs nowadays. So maybe you want to design for a TV frame. Again, all you have to do is just select the frame and just click on whatever frame you want to design on, and that frame comes on your Figma Canva, right? So next thing I want to quickly touch on is how to zoom in and zoom out, right? And the reason I'm touching on that right now is because I'll be doing a lot of zooming in and zooming out while we go through this little tutorial. So to zoom in and zoom out, they have different ways of zooming in and zoom out. So if you're a designer that uses your trackpad, right? So you use your trackpad to design. All you have to do is to place 2 fingers on your trackpad and like place 2 fingers together. So let's say now I want to zoom in, right? All you have to do is just separate your fingers and you have this, your canvas zooming into you, right? But if you want to now zoom out, all you have to do is to still with the 2 fingers on your trackpad, just drag your 2 fingers back together. So that is zooming in and zooming out with your trackpad. Now let's look at zooming and zooming out with on Figma. So all you have to do is come to this toolbar section. You see where you see this 84%, and you have this little drop down arrow. You can see what it says, zoom/view options. Just click on it. Now, first of all, you have this percentage. You can choose to zoom in your wall, maybe like to like 150%, right? And it zooms in into 150, and just press enter. Or maybe you want it to zoom out. You can choose maybe like, let's say 30 something. Depends on you, depends on what view you want. Or better still, you can just click on zoom in, and go back to it and click on zoom out. Depends on you. Or you choose to, so if you're on a Mac, you can press your command, hold your command key down on your keyboard and then press the plus sign, right? So once you do that, you are zooming in. And also if you want to zoom, that's zooming in, right? And if you want to zoom out right now, you can just also the same thing, hold down your command on your Mac and then hit the minus sign. But now if you're using a Windows laptop or a Windows system, command on Mac is controls key on Windows. So hold down your command or controls key and then just press the plus sign, or hold down your command or controls key and just press the minus sign. So that is zooming in and zooming out. So now we've looked at how the frame works. So let's look at the next thing, which is called the shape tool. So with this shape tool, just click on this drop down here. You can see we have different shapes. We have the rectangle, we have the line, we have arrow, we have ellipse, we have polygon, we have star, and we have place image/video. I'm going to take this one by one, right? So the first thing is the rectangle. So you want a rectangular shape, right? All you have to do is to click on this drop down arrow here and select rectangle. Then all you have to do is to click, hold, and drag. So you can see, click, hold, and drag. You've done a rectangle shape. This is kind of shape you want, right? Let's say you want another shape. You want maybe a line. Again, once you've selected that, click, hold, and drag. That's a line, right? So you can see we have the rectangle, we have the line shape. You want the arrow shape. Again, just come to your Canva, click, hold, and drag. You have this arrow shape. Next one is ellipse, which is the circle. Again, once that is selected, click, hold, and drag. Most of the things you've done on Figma is about clicking, holding, and dragging, basically. Click, hold, and drag, you've made your ellipse tool or your circle shape. Then you have the polygon, which in first instance is a triangle, right? So again, click, hold, and drag. We have that shape. And we have the star shape. Again, once that is selected, all you have to do is click, hold, and drag. That's another shape. Now we have this called place image/video. So with this place image/video, now you've decided, okay, this is the shape you want, but you want to put an image into this shape, into any of the shapes here, right? Be it the rectangle, be it the line, be it the arrow, not line rather, be it rectangle, be it ellipse, be it the polygon, be it star, but you want to place an image into these shapes. All you have to do now is to select, once you've clicked on the drop down arrow, you select place image, right? Click on place image, it opens up your system folder. So it opens up this folder where you can choose to select whatever image you have saved on your system already. So I'm going to just pick up our logo here and go with it. So when I click open, now you can see what happens. You can see at the top here it says click or drag to place, right? And then you can see my mouse that I'm moving around this canvas has like a little will I call it an icon of, or like a preview rather, of the picture that I want to place. So all I have to do now is to look for wherever I want to place. I want to place it inside here. Now see what happens when I bring in my mouse into this shape. You can see it's been highlighted, which means, oh, you want to place me here, go ahead and place me here. That's literally what it means, right? Or if I say I want to place it here, I want to place it here, but you can see that it's been highlighted. So let's say I choose to place it in the circle, right? And this is highlighted. So this shows that I'm ready to place this here. All I have to do is just to click my mouse. And now you can see this image has been placed inside the shape, right? You can see the image has been placed inside the shape. So that is how you use the shape tool. So you have different kinds of shape. Now, still on the shape tool, I want to talk about how you can get things to have like to be proportional to each other, right? So you want all sizes to be the same thing. For example, you want your rectangle to maintain the same size. Now, how you do that is when you want to draw any shape at all, hold down your shift key, right? So let's say now I want to draw the rectangle shape. Now watch the difference between this rectangle and the new rectangle I'm going to draw. So hold down your shift key, right, and just draw your rectangle. Now you can see we literally have a perfect rectangle. All sides are the same. They're all proportional to each other. Now compared to this one where I just selected a shape and without holding down any shift key, I just drew my rectangle, as you can see how it is. Also look at how this line here is really not straight, right? Also the same thing, because I want everything to be proportional to each other. Again, I go to the shape tool, I select line, I hold down my shift key and I draw my line. You can see how straight it is. Now compare this line to this one. You can see how straight this one is. Same thing with the arrow shape. Click on the arrow, hold down my shift key and draw my arrow. Again, you can see how it's in a straight line. So holding down the shift key really helps. Let me draw a circle also. Hold down my shift key and I'm drawing the circle. You can see how perfect my circle looks like. It's perfect. All sides are the same. Let me draw my my triangle rather. So I select my polygon, hold down my shift key, and I draw you can see it again. You can compare the both of them and see how this one is perfect compared to this. Same thing with the star shape. Let me draw it beside the star so you get to see it. Hold down my shift key. So you can literally compare that. Without holding down your shift key, you won't get your shapes won't be proportional to each other, right? No matter how it is, you need your shapes to be proportional to each other depending on your designs. So holding down my shift key achieves that result for me. So this is the pen tool. We're going to skip that. I'm going to talk about text too. Now for the text, it's just literally what it means, right? Text. Now I want to type something. This is to like type things basically on your designs or on your Figma canvas. So you have this selected. Once you have this selected, now all you have to do, remember I said Figma is all about click, hold, and drag, right? I click, hold, and I drag. I've just created what is called a text box. So inside this text box, I can type now. You can see, let me zoom in so you can see very. So you can see that inside the text box, now I can type because I've selected the text, right? And I can click out. So let's say I want to move these things around. If I want to move all these things maybe around this canvas, remember what I spoke about the move to select the move to. I said you can move anything. See, I have to select this text and I can move it, right? And I can move it. So that's how the move tool works, right? Now, so we're done with the text. We understand how to like get into text and on our designs, right? So the next one is the resources. So when you click on this, you have the components, you have plugins, you have widgets. Let me touch up on components. So with components are elements or assets you can reuse across your designs. It just helps you to like create consistency across your designs. Now let me give you an example. So we've known how to draw up shape, we've known how to draw up text. So you, as a designer, you probably have a project where you have to work on a mobile app, and design a mobile app takes close maybe probably like 100 plus or like 200 screens. So you want to create a component that you can reuse it like in the course of this design, because you don't always want to be creating a particular thing every single time you need to use it, right? So now let's create a button. So a button is basically a button here. So let's create a button. So most buttons are rectangle, right? Just rectangle, and then you have your text inside. So remember, select the text, drop your text box. You don't always have to drop your text box, you can just click, right? So I can just select the text and just click, right? So let's say create. Again, let me zoom in. Just increase this a bit so it's visible. I'm going to touch about the properties panel a bit, but let me increase this so you get this one. So create an account, right? Create an account. Oh, come on. Yes, create an account. So we have this button. This is our create an account button, and because this is a button that we would always use in the course of your designs, because you're designing mobile, you need to always have a call to action button, right? That means for the 100 or 200 screens you're going to design, you're always going to need a button. Now imagine while you're designing, for every time you want to design a screen, you have to create a button. You have to do this rectangle and text. It becomes really stressful. So now, to make it easy on you as a designer, you want to make it into a component so you can be able to always use it. Now let's also play a scenario where you've designed over 200 mobile screens and you've handed it over to the stakeholder, and then whoever you designed it for is like, oh, I think these buttons are too big, all right, or maybe I don't like the colors of this button. I want to use a blue instead of a gray color. Now, are you going to go back to the 200 screens you have designed to start changing each button color to blue because the stakeholder wants the button color to be in blue and not green? Now that's a lot of work, right? So now this is where component comes in. So all I have to do now is so this is my button. I want to select. So this is on the move to. I just click, hold, and drag. So I have selected. So this is how to select. So you just click, hold, and drag. So you've selected everything here. You can see it's highlighted now. And also you can see on the layers here, you can see how it says create an account and rectangle. They are both highlighted, which means they have been selected, right? And this is what I also spoke about, the layers panel, where you have the names of every element you have on the canvas. So all the stars, the rectangle, you have everything here. Before I go ahead, let me show you how to rename these elements. All you have to do is, okay, this is the star, which is, let's say, this circle now. When I select the circle, this is it here, ellipse 2. I want to change the name. All I have to do is to right click on it and go down to rename. Once I change it, I can change it to perfect circle, right? And I press the enter key, and now I've just renamed this element from ellipse 2 to perfect circle. So that's how to rename your elements on your canvas. So now let's go back to components we're talking about. So now with this component, again, all I said is you have to just select it, right? Once you select it, now it's showing on your layout panel that you've just selected the rectangle 3 and create an account. Now you look at your toolbar section. You have this little icon here. Now when you hover over it, it says create components, right? So you can see how the icon is. So all you have to do is to click on it. Now watch what happens to this when I click on this icon. Watch. Can you see? It's now called components 1. So it has merged rectangle 3. See, if I want to see what is inside this component, all I have to is click this drop down arrow here. You can see it has merged rectangle 3 and create an account into one. So they are now one component. Again, remember, you can always still change the name. All you have to do is to, because you don't want to leave it as components 1, because you need to be able to know the name for when you want to use it in the course of your design. So again, just right click, come down to rename. You can name it maybe button, right? Because this is your button, right? And enter. So now you can see the name has changed to button. So this is your component. This is your so we call this the master component. So this is the master component. So with this master component now, it just basically means that when I have a master component, anything I change on my master component affects other components, right? Now, let me show you what I'm talking about. So now, remember I spoke about how you've done 200 screens and the stakeholder says he wants to change the color of this button from gray to blue. That's what he wants, right? And now you want to do that. So all you have to do now is to, because you've created this main component, you want to come to this place here. Remember I spoke about assets, right? Come to your layer panel and click on assets. See what happens now. You see you have this asset called button, because this is it here. This is because this is your master component. So for every component you create, they will always be saved on your assets. So watch what happens now. I want to click on this button and bring it into my design. Now do you see I have this and I have this. Now let's go back to our layer panel so you can really understand what I'm talking about. So watch what happens. So you see this has this field icon here. You can see how it looks like that. So this is the master component. Then we have this. This is what we call the child component. You can see how the icon is different from this. So you can tell the difference that this is master, this is child, right? You can drag as many child as you want into your design. Just all you have to do is go back to asset, click, hold, drag, click, hold, drag. Do you understand? So with this now, you've created one button, but you are going to use it all through your designs, right? Now let's go back to your stakeholder saying he doesn't like the color of the button. Now you have this master component and you have these 3 other child components. Because you can't start going through these components to start changing the pictures and start changing the colors or start changing the text. All you have to do is to locate your master component, which is this one. This is your master component. Now anything you change on your master component changes on all your child components. Now watch what happens. I'm going to change this from create an account to something else, right? So let's say sign up. Are you seeing? So I changed that create an account to sign up, and now see what happens with all other components. You can see they all change. The same thing if I want to change maybe the size of it, right? Are you seeing? Because all I'm doing is just changing the master component. So because I have change the master component, this is all child component, they will all change, right? But now the difference is that if you change something on a child component, it doesn't affect other components because it's a child component. If you want something to affect the other components, you have to change the master component. So watch what happens now. I change this. This is a child component. Remember the icon, right? This icon, this is a child component. So I select it and so I'll change this to login, right? Are you seeing? Are you seeing what's happening? So this one I changed stays. This is the only thing that changes. It doesn't affect this other component or this one. So that basically is what a component is. So you always want to create an element that or an asset you know that you're going to reuse across your design. It just helps you create that consistency. So remember, don't forget, anytime you want to change something, all you have to do is to locate your master component and know that whatever changes you make on your master component affects your child component. So that is how components work. Now the next thing, and this is our toolbar section here, is the hand tool. So with this hand tool now, is almost similar to move tool, but hey, this is different, right? With the hand tool, you can move your entire Figma Canva around. All you have to do, so you see when you select the hand tool, you have the actual hand, right? When you click on it, it clenches its fist. So this is basically holding the Figma Canva, and then you can click, hold, and drag. So you see the difference. It moves your entire canvas, right? It doesn't move a particular element. You see it? It doesn't move a certain element on the canvas. No, it moves your entire canvas. While the move tool doesn't move your entire canvas, it moves an element. So do you want to see why I say it's the same thing, but has like almost the same thing, but has like different functions, right? Move tool moves your elements on your canvas, while the hand tool moves your entire canvas, right? The next one is this here, which is add a comment. So add a comment basically what it means is for you to add comments. So when you're collaborating with other designers or engineers or product managers or stakeholders, you want to maybe drop a comment to a design to maybe give more context or more explanation on how it works. All you have to do is to click on the add a comment, right? And go to wherever you want to drop the comment. Or let's say I want to drop comment on this button. All I have to do is to click on it. You can see the bar that says add a comment. I can add any comment I want. I can say, okay, this bar should be blue, whatever, and then just click. You can add like a smiley if you want to. You can mention somebody that is part of your team also, right? Or then you just send, so it submits. When you click submit, this will happen. Now this comment is now on this Figma camera. So anybody that has access to your Figma, that you've given access to view your Figma, they will always see this comment. All they have to do is to go to these comments here. They don't even have to click on it. They just have to hover on it, and they've seen your comment. This bar should be blue, and they can also reply you via this comment. All they have to do is to click on it, and you can see this reply here, and they can drop their own reply. Okay, we'll do, and then they press their own submit. So now you can see your message here. You have designers who, because it's just me that is talking to, I'm just talking to myself basically. But when another person replies, it's obviously going to be the person's name, and then you see the person's reply, and you guys can actually collaborate properly. So that's how the comment works, right? So let's move ahead. So this here is a new feature of Figma, which is called the dev mode. We're definitely not going into that. This is the present, where you're going to present your design. Maybe you want to see how it looks like on a frame, and also this is the zoom options, which we spoke about. Now let's talk about the right side, which is the properties panel, right? So in this properties panel, you have this called page. This, just leave it the way it is. You have local variables, you have local stars, you have exports. So now I want to show you something. Now let's select a frame. Let's select a frame. So remember, to select something, all you have to do is when you hover over that thing, you can see the blue color on it, which means it's now this is what you want to select, right? Let's select it. Now you can see how the properties panel look like. You have this design, you have prototype, you have these different signs that I would go into. You have this frame, you have auto layout, grid layer, fill, stroke, effect, export. Now let's go into them one by one now. So first thing, let's look at this here. So this is the frame. Obviously, this is the frame you picked. That's what it just means. It doesn't have to change. It just stays that way. So now let's talk about this letters X, Y, W, H, this angle sign, and this other sign, right? So this X, Y means X and Y axis. Now let's draw a line so I can explain this for you better, right? So this is a line. So X and Y axis is just basically horizontal and vertical, right? So this is your vertical, right? While this is your horizontal. So vertical stands for Y axis. So vertical basically is top to bottom. That is your Y axis, right? And then from left to right is your X axis. Do you understand? So Y stands for vertical, X stands for horizontal. And always know that when you're talking about vertical and horizontal is from left to right, while vertical is from top to bottom. So now watch what happens now. So this figure here is saying that the X angle is placed in -59 let's say position, right? So let's move this frame now. Watch what happens when I move the frame. So I want to move. Remember the move to. I have it selected. All I have to do is now watch what happens when I move this frame. You see I'm moving it to the right. You see what happens? The Y stays the same, but the X figures are changing because I am moving it to the right. I'm moving it on a horizontal plane. So that's why it's changing. Now let's move this on the Y axis. The Y axis, which is top to bottom. Watch what happens now. The X remains the same because I'm just moving this thing on the vertical axis, right? So you can see how the figures are changing because I'm just moving from top to bottom. I'm not going left to right. Yeah, you understand? That is what XY stands for. It's just basically the X axis, which stands for the horizontal, and then Y axis, which stands for the vertical. Always just have this little cross in your head. The next thing is the W and H. So W stands for width, H stands for height. Now the width is just the when I say the width of whatever you want to do. So let's not select this frame. Let's maybe go back to these shapes we've created. So when you select this, it says 367, 187. So 367 is the width. Do you understand? Which stays on the x axis. Remember, we said the x axis is the horizontal. So that is the width, right? So see what happens. The h stays the same, but because I am moving things from left to right, you can see the width is changing, right? See the width is changing. And then if I want to move things on the y axis, which is the vertical, you can see the width stays the same. The h is changing. That is the height. So this is the height of the shape or whatever I want. That's the height. This is the width. You can see how it's changing, right? And to also know that this shape we have here is a perfect shape. When you click on it, you can see how it says you tells you 202, which means all sides are the same. It's the same thing. You can do this also and also make it a perfect rectangle. So if you don't want to hold down that shift key, all you have to just click on it and maybe select a figure. Let's say let me push it up there. Let's say maybe 400. So go to the H 400. So it's a perfect shape. Now you can see all sides are the same. So that is what the XYWH stands for. Now this right here is what we call the rotation, right? So with this rotation, so right now the rotation is on 0 degree. You know we can rotate on 90 degree, 45 degree, 180 degree, whatever way you want to rotate it. So all you have to do is to select this this rotation, and let's just pick a figure. Let's say maybe 30 degree. You want this to rotate 30 degree, right? You press 30, you press enter. You see what happens. So remember, you have to first select what you want to, like the element or like the shape, right? So this has moved 30 degrees. Let's say I want this to move in 90 degrees, right? I press 90, I press enter. It's now on 90 degrees. Do you understand? So for any degree, anyhow you want to turn it, you can rotate it around. So that is what that rotation works for. Now this is called the corner radius. So the corner radius is just what you use to to soften the edge of a shape, a frame, just to soften, basically just for softening the edge of a shape or a frame. So let's zoom in this so you can see what I'm talking about. Let's zoom. So you see how we have the 4 corners of this rectangle. They are like sharp corners, right? You can see very sharp, pointy corners. So let's say we want to make them rounded a bit. All you have to do is to select that and go to this corner radius here, and you can use your arrow key to just keep increasing it, right? So let's take it. Are you seeing that the more I go up, the more I increase, you can see how rounded the corners are. If I don't want it round, all I have to do is just go back to 0 and it becomes sharp and pointy. But if I want to round it, maybe I can say maybe I want it to be rounded like 10, right? And you can see how it looks like now. So that is what corner radius works as, right? Okay. I really hope you're following me with this. And remember, I said this is just more about the basics. Like this is like the basics for newbies and that really want to just going into design and really want to understand how Figma works. This is the video for you. Let's carry on. So next one is the layer. Most times we're just going to leave it as pass through, and this 100% is just going to tell you the transparency. That's basically what it means. So let me put this into our frame here. Let's just put it into this frame. So it's easier for us to say. I want to reduce it, so let's just put this into this frame. So we have this selected now, right? You see we have the pass through is 100%. Pass through is just transparency. How can you be able to see through, let's say, that object you've selected? That is the pass through, right? Let's change this to 50. See what happens. You can see it becomes transparent, right? It becomes transparent. The more I go down, let's say maybe 20, you can see how it's gradually fading into my frame here. So that's what pass through means. It's just to make what your design or your elements, you can make it transparent, right? So let's just go back to 100 because so that's how pass through works. Now next one is fill. Let's talk about fill. Fill is just colors. Just colors, right? I'm going to talk about these numbers. I'm going to talk about this percentage. See, this percentage also stands for pass through. This is also the transparency. This is also the opacity. Again, I can just decide to also, it still does the same function as the pass through. You see, it's still the same thing. You can say it, 20, still the same thing as the pass through. Still does the same function as the pass through, right? But if I had other, okay, let me not jump into that. Let's just stick with this. Right? Let me not give you too much information right now. We're obviously going to have other videos that will break all this down properly. So the next one is the fill. Now you see this little box here. You see, is this the same color as what is here? So that's telling you that what you selected here, this is the color for it. And this is something we call the color code or the hex code. This is the color code of this color, right? So this hex code works that maybe you want a different color and you already have a color code for that. All you have to do is to copy that color code and put it here, and it's going to work. Maybe there's a color code you have that is maybe, let's see, let's play with colors, right? So this is 13. Let's take it to 100. You see, it's black, but it's not like your pure black. But this is a color code, and you see how we changed the color of this, right? Let's go back to this. You see how we changed the color of this, right? Yeah. So now let's say you want to change the color of this rectangle here, because this is not the color. What you have to do is to click this box here. Once you click on it, you see this panel comes up. This panel comes up, tells you custom library. This is the color, this is the hex. Can see it says hex, this is the color. You can decide to, you see this little circle here, you can decide to drag it. Do you see what happens when as I'm moving this circle around this color palette? It's changing the color of the shape rather. So I can set, okay, I want red, and I leave it there. Do you understand? This is also a color palette, and maybe you want to try yellow, right? All you have to do is just click on it, and then you have it here. You can now move this cursor around and just try and get the desired color you want. Again, you can click or just hold down and just drag. It brings up different color palettes for you, different color palettes. But let's say now, with these color palettes here, you're not satisfied. This is not what you want. You have a certain color in mind. Let's say maybe like brown. There's a certain brown you have in mind, but you're not finding it here, right? All you have to do now is to try and get the color code of that brown you want, and just copy the color code and come and paste it here. Copy and paste works how it works everywhere, which is Command C for Mac, Control C for Windows, then to paste Command V for Mac, Control V to paste. So like just copy and paste. That is still basically the same thing on Figma. So let's say you're looking for a color brown and we don't have it there. All you have to, let's say maybe you go on Google and you type maybe color code for brown. It shows you this. This is the hex code. You can see hex code for brown is this. This is the color. This is the color you want, but because we don't have that color on Figma, but this is the color code. All you have to do is to just select this color code, right? Select it and just copy it. So Control C, right? Come back to your Figma. Then click on this hex code I told you about, this numbers, because this is the hex code for this color, right? You want to change this color, so which means you have to change the hex code. You click on it, it's selected, then just Control V, because remember you've copied it from the internet, right? Control V. Now you've pasted it. All you have to just press Enter. That color has changed. Have you seen how easy it is for you to get a color code from somewhere and just come and paste it in Figma and change your color? So this is like an eye opener, and you can use it to generate so many colors. You can use it to generate so many colors that you are working on. Right, you can generate so many colors that you're working on. Right. So this eye here is just to close the color or like leave it open. That is a talk for another day, but this is just the main tutorial I'm taking you through. So we've spoken about colors. Now let's talk about the different kind of colors that we have. So we have solid, right? We have solid. We have gradients. We have solid, we have gradients. So with this now, under gradients, we have different kind of gradients. We have the linear gradients, we have the radial, we have the angular, we have the diamond. So basically, let me just tell you how the gradients work. We're not going to go into this like fully. We're probably not going to go into this fully. Again, this for the color is something that you need to really understand. So this is for another class entirely. This is just more like an overview. So with the gradient, so what gradient just means is that you see how we have all this here, right? What gradient? So solid is you want the entire shape or the entire whatever you have to do, you want it to be in solid. Now, side notes, it doesn't always have to be a shape, right? You can also change the color of a text. You can also change the color of a text. It doesn't always have to be shape, not because I'm using shape. You can always change the color of a text of anything. So let's come up with a text, right? Let's just say designers who tutorial. I don't know why I'm having issues spelling tutorial. Anyways, so you can see once this is selected, you can see the fill here. It tells you that this color is black, right? And I don't want this color to be black. Maybe I want it to be maybe like red or something. All I have to do is just find the little circle on this color palette. Just find a little circle and just drag it. You can see what happens. You see? So you can also change the color of text. It doesn't always have to be. You can change the color of anything you want to change. Even the color of frames, you can change it also, right? So you see, it still works just the same way I've taught you earlier with the solid color. So you just have to go around again. If you have a specific color in mind, all you have to just get the color code or the hex code and come and paste it here, and you are good to go. Again, it doesn't have to be shape. It can even be you want to change this iPhone 13 that we selected as a frame the first time. You want to change it from white because maybe you don't want your design, you don't want the background to be in white. All you have to do is to select it. You can see it says here fill, right? Fill is FFF, fill is white, which is this, right? You can click on it. Again, change it, right? You can just play around with the different colors, right? You can drag this here. You can play around with different kind of colors that they have. So you can add colors to anything. Let's just go back to so you can add colors to anything. It doesn't have to be only shapes. So now we've looked at fill and solid. Now let's talk about gradients. So now with gradients, gradient is when you want to be able to add two or more colors on one element or on one shape or on one text. So you want to add two or more colors on one element. So you see how I selected. So when it's on this place called solid, it just means that you want the entire shape or the entire element to be just one color, to be a solid color. You don't want it to be something different. But let's say for some reason you want to add like 2 or 3 colors to this rectangle. All you have to do is to select this place that says gradient. It automatically changes to the linear gradient. So you can see now I have these 2 different rectangles right here, and you can also see them here too. So let's say I want this one here, like this one here, to be like a different color, right? Which is this here. You want it to be a different color. You have to do is to click on it. Now you can see you have it selected because remember what I spoke about, having this blue thing around the sheet, which shows that it's selected, right? So you have that selected, and you have, first of all, you find out that here it says 0 because the idea is that when you pick a gradient, especially linear, when you pick linear gradients, it picks up that solid color you have, then moves it to one side, and then still the same solid color, it just reduces the transparency. Remember I spoke about transparency, opacity, and like the pass through. It just reduces it to 0, right? Because that's what you have here. So if I choose to increase this to 100, you can see it comes back to having the same color. So you can see now both of them have the same color. But it's showing you these 2 things here because it tells you that, oh, you can add a different color here, you can add a different color here. If you even want 3, all you have to do is to come to this, your design here. You see, the moment I hover over this, you see what's happening, right? You see how it brings up another rectangle. I can just click on it. Now, you see I have 3 different space to add color. So let's say on this first one, I want this first one to be, let's say red, exactly. So red. You see how this side now, from this point to this point here is red because based on what I did, I wanted from this point down to this point should be brown. But you can see that from this point to this point here, where this stuff starts, is red, right? And let's say for this one here, I want it to be another color, maybe let's say green. Now, are you seeing what's happening, right? Let's just say green, right? So you can now see that this, we have red here, we have green here, and then we have that brown. right? So remember, for you to change the colors, you have to always select the color you want to change. You always have to select the color you want to change. And then you can choose to play around with it by maybe, and this is a line that you can always bend. So you can bend it, you can drag it, you can do whatever you want to do with it. You can drag this, you can bring this right in. Just depend on, just play around with it. Just play around with it, and you get to do different things with this linear gradient. Again, remember I said you can add as many as you want. See, once I click here, I've added something else. I can make this maybe black. Are you seeing? I can come here, I can add again. I have it selected. I can make this maybe like purple. So we have like different colors. So that is how solid and gradients work. So we have different kinds. We have the radial, angular, diamond, but we're not jumping into that. This is just to give you an overview of solid colors and gradient colors. So that's how gradient color works, right? So now, next thing now is to talk about stroke, which is let's talk about. And also, before I talk about stroke, also know that, remember what I said about adding colors to anything. You can also, that's the same thing with gradient. You can add gradient to any single thing. You can also add gradient to this text. Remember, click on your fill, come here, where it says gradient, click on it. You see how you have different colors now. Again, remember, you always have to change this to 0 if you want to add maybe another color and maybe you want it very sharp to the eyes, right? Also remember that you can always still change the see-through or like the pass-through or the transparency or the opacity. You can always still change it, right? So that these are two different colors. I want to just show you that you can also use gradient for this color, right? So let's select this. Let's say we want this to be, let's just pick a random color, right? Let me zoom in so you can see it properly. And maybe I don't want it to be up and I want it to be left and right. So I can just do this. I can drag. Do you understand? You know, before I had it up and down, but now I can come to this place here, right? And you see this my cursor changes to like I call this like, have north, east, west, south. Yeah, so it changes to that, and then I can just click, hold, and just drag. You can see it. So I'm just saying that I want this side to be purple, while I want this side to be brown. So you can see, again, I can remember saying you can add so many colors when it comes to, I can also still add something else and say I want that place to be green, right? And then I close it. Now see, you see how it looks like. We have this color. We have a text, just one text with 3 different colors on it. So you can add colors to anything you want to add colors to. Next one is the stroke, right? So let's talk about the stroke now. So the stroke, first of all, let's select the stroke. So to just put a stroke on your design, you have to do is to press the plus sign. When you press that plus sign, you have a stroke. Let me zoom in so you can see what I'm talking about. Let me zoom in properly. Let's do Ctrl Z. Ctrl Z is to undo whatever you've done. Remember, I said Ctrl. It just works as normal. Ctrl Z, Ctrl C to copy, Ctrl V to paste, Ctrl Z to undo. So you can just do that. So we want to add a stroke to this thing. Now, a stroke is, let me give an example of a stroke. Remember when I said when we try to select something, we have this stroke, that this color that Figma shows us, right? You see how these are all gray, but the moment I hover over them, you see this blue thing around it. This is a stroke, right? This is a stroke. It's just a color outline. Do you understand? So this is a blue stroke. You can see this is a blue stroke. So that is what a stroke is. So for some reason, maybe you want a stroke on your design. It can be shape or anything. All you have to do is to select what you want that stroke to stay on. Come to the plus sign here and press it down. You can see you have that black stroke around it, right? You know it's black because, again, you see this color here. You see under stroke, you have this little triangle that is showing you a color, which means that that stroke that you have, this is the color. You can always remember, you can always change the color. It shows you the same panel where you click on fill. So that means you can have solid colors for stroke and you can have gradient color for stroke depending on what you want, right? You can choose to make it something else. You can choose to, so you can change the color of the stroke depending on you, right? But now let's say you want the stroke to be more visible, like you want it to be very visible to the eyes, because right now it's not visible to the eyes, right? Select what you want the stroke to be on. You've added a stroke. Now you see here where it says 1, which means the stroke width, the width of the stroke is just 1. right? I can increase this to maybe 3 and I press enter. You see what happens now? The stroke weight increases. Now I can see the stroke more, like it's now actually visible. You can increase it to whatever you want to increase it to. You can even reduce it to, maybe you don't even want it to 1, maybe you want it very, very subtle. You can maybe even reduce it to 0.5, right? And it's still there, but you can see it's very subtle, right? So that's how stroke works. Next one we're going to talk about is effect export, and then we're going to talk about something very important, which is text. I'm going to show you that. So let's talk about effects now. Effects is basically effects on your design. So when you click on the plus sign, you've selected what you want that effect to, what you want the effect to go upon. You press the plus sign, you have these different options here. So you have inner shadow, drop shadow, layer blur, background blur. So these are all shadows that you can use. Maybe you want a shadow on your design, right? Let's say drop shadow now. So with this drop shadow, let's increase this a bit. You can see this little black shadow behind this element, right? But maybe it's not visible enough, or maybe that's not where you want to place it. So all you have to do is to see this thing called effect settings. It looks like a sunlight, right? So you just go to the drop shadow, you select your drop shadow, you can select inner shadow, you can select layer blur, whatever. You have the effect settings to set it whatever way you want it to be, but let's stick with drop shadow for today. And you click on your effect settings, this setting pops up. So with this setting now, remember we talk about x-axis, y-axis now. You know I said x-axis is horizontal, which is left to right, right? And y-axis is vertical, which is top to bottom. Why blur just means like you want it blurry. Like, so this is like how blurry do you want this shadow to be? If it's in 0, it just looks like it's not even, if once you select 0, let me show you what happens. 0, that means you don't want any blur on this thing. You see how it becomes very sharp. It becomes like a normal shape. But this is not what you want. You want it to be a shadow. You don't want it to look like a shape. You don't want it to be a shape. You want it to be a shadow, right? So this is where you can make this blur whatever figure you want, and it becomes very blurry depending on you. You can make it whatever you want. So now with this, where this x, y works now is that on this x-axis now, we have this. Let me increase this so it's more visible exactly. So we have this shadow now, right? On the x-axis, that which means on the x-axis, which is from left to right, is 0. The figure is 0, which means it's literally behind this element and is in the middle, so you cannot see a spill off from the side, right? While on the y-axis is 4, it is +4, which means top to bottom, which means it's at the bottom, right? So let's change this, and let's change maybe like 10. Watch what happens. So because remember we are moving from left to right, so when you put a positive number, so let's say the way I put 10, the shadow moved from left to right 10 paces, right? So now it's on the right. But if I put minus, so let's say maybe I want to push this shadow I want to still move them on the x and y, on the x-axis rather, but I want it to be on the left-hand side, which means I want to go from right to left. All I have to do is to make it a negative. So let's make it -12. Are you seeing what happened now? It has gone to the left-hand side. The reason I put minus is that I want to move to the left, because naturally, to move on the x-axis, you have to move from left to right. So if you are moving from right to left, you are moving in a negative way, right? And also on the y-axis, from top to bottom. If you want to move from the bottom to the top, you are moving in the opposite direction, which is the negative way. But you can see when I picked -12, it moved on the x-axis, right? Let's do the same thing for y, which is, don't forget, it is top to bottom. Let's make it maybe 12 also. Watch what happens. So you can see now we have this shadow behind these elements. And you can see the figures that on y-axis is 12, on the x-axis is -12. Also, if I want this shadow to stay at the top here, all I have to do is to select this y-axis and make it a negative, because I want to go from bottom to top. So I'm going the opposite direction of the x and y axis, so which is negative, -12. Watch what happens. It goes to the top. Now we have this. So now we can really understand, okay, this is how we want our design to be. This is where we want the shadow to be placed based on your design. You can use your description to choose however way you want it to be placed. You can choose to even make them 0. Up to you is up to you, right? And then you have this color here and this 50%. Remember I said for every percentage that comes with the color, it's just the opacity or like the transparency of it. Because if you make it with shadows, you don't make them 100. Because if you make it 100, what will happen when you make it 100? It's just a normal color. It doesn't look like a shadow anymore, right? So most times it always starts at 25. So you can choose to reduce the transparency based on your discretion. And also you can choose to change the color of your shadow. Do you see that? You can choose to change the color of your shadow. Watch. Sorry, let me just show you what I mean. Yeah, so you see the color of the shadow is changing. Can you see that it's changing? Yeah, so you can see that you can choose to change the color of your shadow. That's how it works. There you can choose to even reduce it. Maybe you want it a bit softer. You understand? You can choose to reduce it more. Just give this very soft shadow behind it. So that's how the effect works. Now, we're almost coming to the end. Next thing is the export. Export is just what it means. Now I want to export my design. I've finished designing this. I want to be able to export my design and save it on my system, on my system folder, on my system folder or something. All you have to do is to click the export, and then they have different options of how you want to export this. You want to export it as a PNG, as a JPG, as an SVG, as a PDF. Depending on you have to select it, and then click on export, and it just, as you can see here, it just exports and is saved on your folder. And then you have to just go there and you can pick it up and do whatever you want to do with it. Now let's talk about something very important, which is the text property. So we already have this text here, right? We have this text here. So let's do another text. So let's start from big. So you see, the moment I selected a text, you see how this came up. We didn't have this before while we were going through this tutorial, because this is just strictly for text properties. This is the text property. So when you start writing a text, that's when this comes up, and you would always need to write a text because you're designing, right? So let's drop a new text. So remember what I said, to have a text, you click on your T, which stands for text. You draw up your text box. This is your text box. So which means every text you write will stay in this box. This is your text box. So now let's just type. I want to be able to break down some things to you, but let's stop here first. So we have this, right? So you see under this text now we have inter. So this is where you're able to change your font family, right? This is where you're able to change your font. So all you have to click on it, and you have different kind of font. Because you have this text selected, remember, once I have this selected now, you see I don't have the text in. So your text has to be selected for you to be able to see your text property. So you select this inter, which is, now you want to have different fonts, right? You want to have different fonts. You've seen all these fonts. You can just randomly pick any one. All you have to do is because you have the text selected, just click on it, and you see it changes. Can you see it? So you can preview, you can see how it looks like. It changes, right? Can again just click on any one. You can see that it changes also. You can see they all change, right? They all change. So you're just looking for different text, to just go with your design. How to import fonts, that will be like another tutorial. I'll also advise you to join our community, which there will be a link in the description after this video. You're going to see how to join our community for you to get more resources, more free resources like fonts, like 3D shapes. You get to see all these resources to be able to help your design and your design journey. So now let's go back to it. So now you have this. Remember I said this is all about text property. So now you've selected the font called inter. Now you look underneath it, you have this thing called regular. Let's open it up. You click on it. Now you have thin, extra. So these are like the font weights, right? These are like the font weights. So you want it to be regular, medium, bold, semi-bold, extra bold, black, thin italics. You have some of the fonts have so many font weights. They have so many. Depending on your design, you can use any one. But most times as designers, we always want to start our designs from regular, because you want your designs to be, you want people to be able to view your designs. You don't want to make it thin. Now let me show you something. Let's select thin. Just see how the design is. It's because I zoomed in, right? I'm on like, look at, I'm 148% zoomed in. Is you can kind of read it, but when you zoom out, you can see that it's not too clear on the eyes, right? It's very difficult on the eyes. So most times as designers, we always want to start with regular because it's clear off on the eyes. You can see when I zoom out, you can read it, right? It's clear off on the eyes. So you always want to start regular. So you have medium. Now you see different. Now you have medium. You see how it becomes darker, like it becomes a bit darker, right? You have medium. You have semi-bold. It just keeps going, like the weight just keeps increasing like that. You see bold, extra bold. You see how it looks like black. You see how it looks like. It becomes very, very, and the font will become very thick, right? Now let me show you the difference so you'll be able to understand it. So this is regular. Let's copy and paste different text. Control C, Control V. You have it saved. You drag it, just drag it down. The same, and now maybe to duplicate, or you can just do Control D, right? Now it has duplicate. You can see the duplicate section. So if you don't want to press Control C, Control V, you can just press Control D. That is straight up duplicate, right? So let's use this. Okay, let's use this 4. Let's use this. No, let's make it 5. Yes, let's make it 5. So this is regular, right? This is regular. So everything here is regular. So let's make this one medium. So let's select it as medium now. When I select medium, you can see the difference between medium and regular. You can see there's a clear difference, right? Let's make this one semi-bold. You see that there's a difference with semi-bold, medium, and regular. You can see the difference, right? Let's make this bold. Again, there are clear difference, right? Let's make this extra bold. Again, you see, so depending on your designs, right, the font weight all look different. The font weight all look different, right? The font weight all look different. So you can choose to use any of the font weights, right? So we have all this. Remember, they all look different. So next one is the line height. Now let's talk about the line height. So the line height basically is just especially when you have is mainly visible when you have your text in 2 different lines, right? It's not just in one line. Like just the same thing we have here. This is an awesome design that I am enjoying. They're in 2 different lines, right? So your line height now is just the height between each text. It's just the height between each text, right? So what happens now when I click on it, and I pick a random figure, maybe say 10, right? See what happens. Are you seeing? It becomes like it shrinks, right? It shrinks. Let's say maybe 20. Can you see the space? It's still one sentence, but now that's the line. So it's just basically separating. Are you seeing? As I'm increasing it, are you seeing what's happening, right? But most times, depending on your design, I always just leave mine in auto, right? I leave mine in auto, right? I leave mine in auto. But you can see what happens when you increase the line heights. You get. The next one now is called letter spacing, just the way it's a letter spacing. So these are all letters. This THISISAN, they are all letters. So this is the spacing between these letters. Now watch what happens now as I increase this spacing, right? Watch what happens now as let's say maybe 20. Watch what happens. You see how they are all spaced out because this is letter spacing. They are all spaced out. So that is what letter spacing works for. Let's go back to 100. Let's go back to 0 rather. So that's what letter spacing is for, right? The next one is paragraph spacing. Now, just as it says now, paragraph, which means even this is not a paragraph, this is just a sentence, right? So let's create a paragraph. Paragraph is something that probably starts on a new line. So let's say, if that is an awesome design, this is one sentence. One starts the next sentence on a new paragraph. So we press the enter key and we say something like, you enjoying this tutorial? Why do I always have issues when I want to spell tutorial? I don't know why. Okay, are you enjoying this tutorial? Right, so now this is a sentence, right? But this started on a new line, which means it's a paragraph. You understand? So now let me now show you how paragraph spacing works. So watch what happens now. This is meant to be a paragraph, but it doesn't look like a paragraph. It just kind of blends in with this other text here, but I want to make it look like a paragraph. Again, I have to click on it, press any figure I want. You see what happens now. Let me bring this, you know what, let's bring this out of the frame. Let's just keep it here. I see what happened now is it literally enters the next part. So there's a space here, right? Maybe let's just make it 10. Let's reduce it a bit. But you can see now that there's this space. So basically what you're telling now, for every paragraph you have, there will always be that spacing of 10. So let me show you. Are you seeing it? I'm definitely not going to spell tutorial again, but you can see for every time I press spacing, every time I press the enter key because I want to create a new paragraph, there is that spacing there always. That is what this paragraph spacing works for. Yeah, I know some of you will be looking at this text box and how all these texts are overflowing away from this text box. Don't worry, I'm going to get into that. We're almost there. So now we have this, and now we can see how all these are overflowing away from the text box because we had to, remember when we're creating our text, we clicked on our text and we created a text box, which I said earlier, like you don't always have to do that. You can just click on your text and just click and type, right? But doing this, there's no infinite, it just goes in, like you can keep typing and going, right? But when you create a text box, all the texts are going to stop at this width here and just keep going down, but they won't exceed this width, or this, I call it the x-axis, right? So they won't exceed this rather. So let's delete this off. So now we draw our text box and we have this text here. Now let's now go into the next thing, which is the auto width, the auto height, and the fixed size. Now when you create a text box, so when you create a text box, this is the fixed size because you created this text box yourself. This is the size you want. This is the fixed size. This is the size of the text you want the text to be. This is inside this text box, right? That is the fixed size. So now let's go back. Let's use this one since we already have things typed in here. So because I created a text box and I kept typing, this is the fixed size. So this size don't change. That is why when I kept on typing, it just kept overflowing away from the text box, because I had already created a fixed size by drawing the text box, right? The next one now is the auto height. So with this auto height now, because I don't like how this text is overflowing away from like the text box, watch what happens when I click on auto height. Now watch what happens. You can see it immediately snaps all the text together, and then the text box kind of wraps itself around the actual text. So that is the auto height. Auto height, the y-axis, vertical, so that's why it comes down. Do you understand? The next one is the auto width. So let's say maybe for some reason now, I don't want this, I want everything to be in a straight line. Like all these things I wrote here now. You know what, let me take them up because so it doesn't spoil. Let me take it here. So now I want everything now to be in a straight line, which is in a horizontal line, or will I call it the x-axis, right? I want it to be in a straight line. When I press the auto width, because remember width is x-axis horizontal, height is y-axis vertical, right? Watch what happens when I press width. Are you seeing that? Now everything is now in one line. All my sentences are now in one line. Do you understand? So while these are different, because remember they are all different paragraphs, they are not a sentence, they are all different paragraphs. So this whole sentence, remember it went from this to this, which means it has brought every sentence to one line. So the way auto width puts all the sentences in one line. Do you understand? So even if I had more, so let me show you an example now. So I want to keep typing still on this sentence, right? It just keeps going. Are you seeing it? It just keeps going. It keeps going because that is what auto width works as. It puts all sentences in one line. Do you understand? So that is how auto width, auto heights, and fixed size work. So don't worry when you let's copy this. Let's use this because we've already overused the other one. So don't worry when you are when you drop a text and then for some reason your text are overflowing from, like when you drop a text and then for some reason your text, they are overflowing from your text. But don't worry about that. Don't give yourself stress. all you have to do is to choose to say, okay, you want everything in a fixed height. Click on it, then in a fixed height, or you want all your sentences to be in one line, and then you have that. So that is how that works, right? That's how that works. Now let's go to the next one, which is this alignment tool. So you have the text align left, text align right, align center, text align right. So this is like the text alignments. So for now, you can see that all these texts here are starting from the left, which means they are all left aligned because they are all starting from the left. Do you understand? They're all starting from the left, so they are all left aligned. But maybe I want this text to be centered aligned. All you have to do is to, maybe you want this text to start from the middle. The way you have this is an also design that I'm enjoying. You want these ones to be in the middle. All you have to do is to come to this text align center. Watch what happens when I click on it. You can see now all the texts are in the middle, like they started from the center. Now they don't start from the right, right? Do you understand? So let me give you an example. So you see, this is text is left aligned. So when I type, let me delete all this, right? Let me show you something. So when I type, you can see that this is starting from, like, the text started from the left, right? It started from the left. You can see that it started from the left, and I just keep on typing and typing, and I'm going, right? Now see what happens when I click on let me duplicate this. Sorry, excuse me. Yeah, so see what happens when I want it to start from the middle. I click on align, right? Align center, and maybe I can just go to the text here, draw my text box. Watch what happens now. You can see my cursor is starting from the middle. So anything I type is going to start from the middle. Do you see it? So that is how the text alignments work. And also, if I choose to select the text to align to the right, right? And then let's say I select my text and I drop my, you can see my cursor is starting from there, which means every text I write is going to start from the right. Are you seeing? Are you seeing? So this is how text alignment works, right? This is how text alignment works. This is me showing you how to create new text with text alignment. So even if you can change existing text to, this is aligned to the left, right? If I click align to center, you can see it moves to the center. If I click align to the right, you can see everything moves to the right. So you can also see change existing text too, basically. So next one now is the alignment of, like, the text. Now if you want it at the top, so this basically is moving on the x-axis. Remember, align to the left, align to the center, and align to the right. Remember, left to right, x-axis horizontal, x-axis horizontal. Don't forget. While this is alignment top, middle, bottom. Remember, top to bottom, y-axis, top to bottom, vertical. You can remember that, right? So now, right now, this is aligned to the top. When I put aligned, because here I drew a text box, so you can see we have enough space here, right? So for some reason, maybe I want it to be in the middle of this text box. Just click on this. You can see it's now in the middle of the text box. Maybe I want it to be at the bottom of this text box, right? Once I click bottom, you can see it goes to the bottom of the text box. Do you understand? So remember, anything that is moving left to right is on the x-axis, and that is horizontal. Anything moving top to bottom is on the y-axis, that is the vertical. So I really hope you understand this tutorial. Like I said, this is very basics. Like, this is very basics of introducing you to Figma, especially for the new guys that you've said you want to go into design, but you don't know how to start up a Figma account, or even like know the little tools here and there. I hope this has given you like an insight on how to even just start playing around with Figma, with these little things I've shown you on the layers panel, the properties panel, the top bar section, how to create shapes, how to even create colors, how to create gradients, how to create components. So you can even start going around and looking at other designs. I know from this little tutorial you've had, you'll be able to really go out and start up something. So trust me, the next tutorial we're going to have is going to be mind blowing. So we're going to deep dive properly into designs, into colors, into auto layout. No, we didn't talk about auto layout or layout grid. I'm trying not to overwhelm you for like the first class. So just know that our next section, our next class is going to be awesome, and that's why I asked you to subscribe to our channel if you haven't done so, and also like, share, and also put on your notifications so you'll be able to get a notification the moment we drop our next video on how to use Figma. So thank you guys very much. Thank you for staying with me this long, and I really hope you've learned something from this little tutorial we've had. And yeah, can't wait to see you the next time. Thank you guys. Do take care of yourself. Bye.